So, Lamar, I got to start with, it's not uncommon anymore for adults to discover that they're on the autism spectrum, but it's always a fascinating thing. Tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to the point where you sought out a diagnosis.
Okay, well, it's kind of a long developing story. I always knew I had some challenges as a child, but we grew up in a military family, so we kind of bounced around a lot, and people attributed that to, the constant changes. But more recently, I was going through a course in my doctoral studies that required us to take a class in the psychology department, and in that, we were required to take what must have seemed at least 20 different personality assessments and other assessments, one of which required me to ask coworkers and people close to me to give an evaluation. And I began to see things that I had never heard before. Someone very close to me said that I tend to not be able to pick up on social cues in large settings. I am laser focused on one task at a time. I begin to hear people say things like you look tired, or you should smile more, aren't you excited, or I'm just kidding, I was just being sarcastic. And I heard a lot of that language, and it came at a time where there was a transition at my job, and so I went from one area to another, and I think that first year of becoming the pastor of my church, I struggled tremendously because I was in a different setting, dealing more with adults and youth. And I heard some pretty unflattering but true things that people were observing about me. And I finally got the courage to put together all the pieces of the puzzle and talk to my wife about it. And after about 6 months of wrestling with it, I finally decided to go and get a confirmed diagnosis.
And I gotta say, though, it's especially fascinating to me because you're a pastor, and a pastor, that seems like a very social job to me. So I'm listening, and I'm amazed. You're saying that you were struggling with some aspects of it, but the fact that you had been able to make it work for a lot of years, it's got to be a real credit to your ability to hang in there.
Yeah, and I think inadvertently, I've always been an avid reader, mostly because, as a kid growing up, I wasn't particularly social. But I think inadvertently, as I was matriculating through school, whether doing my master's or my doctorate, or I went to school for chaplaincy, a lot of the reading obviously was teaching us counseling skills and how to talk to people, how to work with people. And I honestly think that most of my understanding of how to relate to people came through what was one of my primary strengths, was reading. And so in a kind of a hidden way, I was learning how to navigate certain situations because I had to read about them. I had to be trained on those types of things. And I think it ended up helping me to some degree. But obviously, I ran into a situation where I needed to get a little bit more clarity on what was going on with me.